Cup. Richard Dean, an experienced single-seater driver, leads this championship, but he only had a 10-point lead over Jeremy Cottrell. And Alistair Lyle's victory in the last round here at Silverstone has lifted him to third place. Let's enjoy the action with our commentators Neville Hay and David Addison.
Thanks, Chris. Eugene O'Brien is the man on pole position with Stephen Day alongside him. Both of them yet to win this year. Richard Dean is third on the grid, and we're with number 5, Nick Carr, who lines up 8th quickest after qualifying. The pace car dives into the pit lane. The lights will flash from red to green in a moment, and then the rolling start will become a race. It does so now, and O'Brien's white car leads away down to Copse Corner for the first time.
O'Brien then leading as they come down towards Copse Corner. The big question is this battle that's been raced long between these two season-long whoops? We've got a problem. Henry Kangas there manages to get himself tied up with what looked like Nick Carr.
Well, Phil Burgess was involved. He's got a battered left-hand door. Look, he carries on. We're on board with Piers Johnson, the man from Middlesex, with a fair amount of work to do. He was 6th on the grid, but it looks as though he may have lost a little bit of ground in that opening corner melee at Copse. We'll see in a moment as down they come to Stowe, and there is Richard Dean, the championship leader, looking on the inside of Eugene O'Brien, and it's Stephen Day who leads. Number 4, Stephen Day from the inside of the front row. Remember, the pole position is on the outside here. Leads, and we're on board with Jeremy Cottrell behind Nick Carr, so I suspect that maybe Nick wasn't involved at Copse after all.
Well, Nick Carr certainly looks as if he might have been involved in that, but Cottrell was obviously delayed as well. The interesting factor there out front, Eugene O'Brien is so busy, I think, trying to keep an eye on what's going on behind him that he's forgotten all about Stephen Day, who's now in the lead. And this is interesting because Day actually looks as if he might be getting away from O'Brien. Then we've got still Richard Dean holding on to third place.
Brian Heary, the man from Stockport, is 4th, and Alistair Lyle, who won here the last time they were on the Grand Prix second at the Grand Prix meeting, is 5th, and all over the cross went Jeremy Cottrell. Does not like Jeremy, and I wonder whether there's something wrong with that car.
Yes, Cottrell seemingly had some sort of a problem there. Wonder if he might have picked up some debris, whether he's got a tyre problem.
Well, back on board with Henry Kangas coming through Priory, then into Brooklands, a very crowded circuit ahead, including there another Rover Turbo debutant, number 39, Mark Blair, and somebody runs wide. That's Cottrell again. It could be a steering or a suspension problem, but he's in real trouble. He lies second in the championship, and I fear that Cottrell is heading for the pits and retirement.
Yes, Cottrell undoubtedly has a problem. As Nigel Edwards, who's had a funny season this year, goes through. First time we've ever seen him on the pace this year.
Here's Johnson down towards Copse Corner, brakes as late as he can. Sets the car up, hurls it into the corner, the back tries to come round, he goes onto the curb and touches the grass, and now accelerates out of Copse as into the pit lane comes Jeremy Cottrell. Well, the car looks all right, but it's not going terribly quickly.
Well, I had a look at the tyres, they look all right, but I'm not so sure. Might possibly be some other sort of problem. Here come the leaders once again, and undoubtedly at the moment, the interesting thing is that Day is out front and looks like staying there.
And Richard Dean can't find a way past Eugene O'Brien for love nor money, so he's trapped there behind O'Brien, and all the time as they fight for second place, so Stephen Day pulls away. Now Richard Dean is ideally placed this time to dive up the inside coming into Stowe Corner, but he can't do it. Further back, Lawrence Plummer there, the red and white mirror group back car, looks for a run up the inside of Nick Carr, then side by side into Stowe Corner, and through goes Plummer.
Well, you've just seen Plummer do what I'm quite sure Richard would like to do. Richard Dean, Henry Kangas. Well, we saw what problems he had earlier on. It looks as if somebody else is having them in front of him now, and Henry looks as if he might make a place as a result of that.
That was Mark Blair, the former rally man, and Henry Kangas looks at the inside. He can't get past there. Now the outside coming into Club Corner. Blair moves across and hits him, and Mark Blair disappears stage right, and with a rather crumpled car. Not entirely sure whose fault that was.
Well, I rather think Henry played his part in that. Still that battle going on, and quite a gap now emerging before we get the next little group, with Plummer, of course, the man to keep an eye to now, but having got past, that's one thing, but staying ahead of Nick Carr is another.
And we're on board with Nick Carr now, coming into Priory. Burst of acceleration, lift off, straight left into Brooklands. Lawrence Plummer's next target is the man from Retford in Nottingham, Nigel Edwards, who won here a couple of years ago at the Grand Prix. Into Luffield 1, you can see the dust being kicked up ahead of them both there. Now into Luffield 2, and then past the bits, and Carr gets very, very sideways, and instantly that gap doubles between himself and Plummer.
It just goes to show how smooth you have to be if you want to drive these Rovers really quickly. As the group goes, still Lawrence Plummer then ahead of Carr, and you can see the disadvantage now. And this is once again a look back at our friend Henry. Well, it does seem to me that the gap just wasn't there. And I'd have to say that I felt that Henrik Angus was as much to blame there as anyone for what was an incident that undoubtedly has put somebody out of the race.
Britain's best body shop, it said on the back of Mark Blair's car. He may need it. Now look at Richard Dean. He's dropped back, hasn't he, by a good 3 lengths or so, coming into Stoke Corner this time. So Richard Dean has got to take stock of the situation and now chip away for a couple of laps to bring the gap down. He's having a go as they come down the Vale in towards Club Corner. But Stephen Day is romping away up front. He's the quickest man on the circuit with the fastest lap to his credit at over 85 miles an hour. And under braking, Dean is a good deal closer to O'Brien.
Yes, I think Richard Dean dropped back with you thinking, now what do I do now? Having thought it out, he's probably made up his mind what he's going to do. The question is, where is he going to do it?
They're coming up towards Abbey. Richard Dean right on the tail of O'Brien. He needs second place. He needs points for the championship. He has a look on the inside coming into the braking area. They're side by side. Dean through. O'Brien turns in and there's contact. Eugene O'Brien goes over the grass. Where's Dean? There is Richard Dean. Stephen Day still up front. O'Brien and Dean come in together. O'Brien much slower there, coming into Priory. Richard Dean looks on the outside of Eugene O'Brien's car, and that clash between them won't have done either of them any good.
Well, Richard Dean went for what was a perfectly sensible gap. Eugene O'Brien closed what was a perfectly reasonable door.
And now he runs wide, a very strange line at Luffield 1, and I reckon that O'Brien's got a puncture. That clash, I think, has given Eugene O'Brien a deflated tyre. If it has, he's heading for the pits, and that'll be the end of him. Piers Johnson is our chauffeur at Luffield 2, and there, the white car on the right of the picture is Eugene O'Brien going into the pit lane, and Richard Dean grins broadly as he crosses the line. The clash between them has given Dean second place and O'Brien a pit stop.
Yes, I think O'Brien there probably was the architect of his own downfall. Let's have a look at it again. A nice clean manoeuvre here by Dean, and O'Brien basically drives into him. It's as simple as that.
And O'Brien then bounces wide. The valve has been ripped out of the tyre. That tyre is deflating, and by the end of the lap, Eugene O'Brien would be in the pit lane. There, though, out in front is Stephen Day. He hasn't won yet this year, and this has been a faultless performance from him, helped in part by that battle behind, taking up attention, delaying both Dean and O'Brien. But now Stephen Day had better get a little bit of a shuffle on. He has a monstrous advantage over Richard Dean, but Dean no longer has anybody else to worry about. He can get his head down and try and reduce that advantage, but it's a tall order, isn't it?
A very tall order indeed. I would think that Richard Dean will probably be driving primarily for points. Don't forget he leads this championship quite comfortably at the moment. Though he would like, obviously, to clinch it as soon as possible, driving for points is probably, as far as he's concerned, the name of the game.
And Lawrence Plummer up into the top 6 now. In fact, he's up into 5th place, and Piers Johnson is at Stowe Corner. Hear the tyre squealing there on the power, runs wide onto the curbs. A slightly re-profiled Stowe Corner for this season, and it's a little bit quicker. As a result, Day chucks the car into Abbey, catches it, powers out.
And Day, driving in a masterly fashion, I'm sure he wishes every race had gone like this season.
A very talented one-make racer, but a very talented driver, a single-seated as well as saloons, is Richard Dean there in 2nd place, and Brian Heary on target for a podium finish. He is 3rd, and there in 4th place is the Loughborough motor trader Alistair Lyle. 5th now is Lawrence Plummer, and Stephen Day is out front.
So Stephen Day looking very happy with the race, as well he might be. Takes the checkered flag here at Silverstone to win this round of the Dunlop Rover Turbo Cup. The first round that he's won this year, and now we've had 4 different winners in 1996. Day, Dean, Heary, Alistair Lyle a good 4th, then Lawrence Plummer and Piers Johnson.
And Brian Heary's car stops on the slowing down lap, but in the championship Richard Dean increases his advantage over Jeremy Cottrell, with Lyle 3rd and Day 4th.
Stephen, congratulations. Satisfied with that victory?
Yeah, 66.44. That's Owen.
Cadwell Park is one of the country's most scenic circuits, and it's here that we see the TVR Tuscans racing for the first time in 2 years. Bobby Verdon Rowe with a misfiring car is on pole position. Colin Blower non-starting. He should have been alongside him. He's had technical problems and doesn't appear.
So Verdon Rowe in the lead, but Verdon Rowe, if he's got a misfire, could find a bit of a problem in the hills and dales here. Hanging on to him, Ian Flux in 2nd place. And Flux, I'm sure, should be a man to watch, but from the back of the grid and already up 4 places, Martin Short.
Now, Ian Flux is teammate to Bobby Verden-Rowe, and Fluxy is second in the championship to John Kent, whose green and white and blue car is fourth as they come now to the top of the hill through all the cement dust put down from earlier races. It would make sense for Team Central TVR to suggest to Bobby Verden-Rowe that he gets his misfiring car out of Fluxy's way and lets Ian carry on for the championship. Here they are, nose to tail.
A squirrel there under braking as we look at fourth place man leader of the championship, John Kent. But still it's Verden-Rowe with Flux behind him and quite a gap before we get next man through. Car number 9 hanging on to third place there. Gavin Cooper still ahead of John, and I'm quite sure that the rest home man is going to give him a restless time.
John Kent fourth, across the line he goes. In fifth place there, chasing after him is Chris Lord, and then sixth is Andy Britnell. But up front it's still Verden-Rowe and Flux nose to tail. And it looks to me as though Ian Flux may have to break sweat and work for this one. There's Jason Yeomans going through in 7th position. But Fluxy now looking for a way past Bobby Verden-Rowe. Bobby swerving road, it looks like, at the top of the hill there, weaving around, trying to fend him off.
Yeomans up a place. Yeomans looking for a place, and at the same time you saw John Kent looking for a place.
Andy Britnell all over the grass loses a place to Jason Yeomans, and the production car champion back on the circuit.
Well, he collected it back together again with a lot less drama, I think, than David imagined he was going to have at the time.
Yes, normally if you go off there, you go off in quite a big way, but it wasn't as bad as feared. Verden-Rowe, then Flux, and I reckon that Cooper and Kent are getting a little bit closer now.
Yes, I can't really understand why Flux was now here. That's Martin Short off.
Martin Short carries on. Richard Caburn is the other man that has gone off. Poor El Martin's not having a very good day here at Cadwell Park, especially bearing in mind that he didn't win at Croft.
Well, a touch of grass there, and you can see, in fact, all these cars pretty close together, and I think this is brought about by the fact that Flux hasn't got through yet, but under braking, it's looking now as if he's going to take the lead. Yes, he has.
So Ian Flux leads here at Cadwell Park, and his championship rival, John Kent, is down in 4th place. That's good news for Ian Flux. Now, if he can pull away and Bobby Verden-Rowe maintain a wide car in 2nd place, that should help Flux, but Verden-Rowe's fighting back. That yellow and orange stripy flag you saw was to warn drivers that there's oil on the circuit, and with 4.5 litres of bags of horsepower, an oily, slippery, tight Cadwell Park is not ideal.
And if you think you're seeing things, yes, Verden-Rowe is driving the car that Flux started the season with. Flux is in a new car, Verden-Rowe's in his old car, and Cooper is going better than I've seen him go this year. This is a great driver's circuit, and so it's more power to Cooper's elbow, as it were, because he's showing, for the first time this year, what really can happen when he's on the pace on a circuit that he can drive well on.
He's been threatening to break into the top 3 all season long, but he's about, I fear, to drop down to 4th because John Kent comes up on the outside of him. Cooper's on the inside line. It's a little bit slippery there, and Kent goes round the outside, and that is a great bit of driving. And John Kent, who's been racing Tuscans since they started in 1989, shows why he's a former champion.
Yes, anybody who can go around the outside like that has got a bit of class. And Cooper trying very hard to stay with Kent, but interestingly enough, he's got his own shadow there, David.
Out of the hall bends, through the hairpin, Chris Lord all over the back of Gavin Cooper's distinctive Dayglow car, then Jason Yeomans, then Andy Britnell in 7th after his grassy moment of earlier on. But headlights ablaze, Ian Flux continues to lead. Bad news for him, though, of course, for the championship is that John Kent is up 1 further place.
And looks to me to be trying very, very hard to close on Verden-Rowe. Now, this is going to be an interesting battle, apart from Lord there, who is making Cooper's life extremely miserable.
Chris Lord in the Henley Heritage car, losing touch as they go up the hill.
There's smoke coming from Lord's car. He had a brake problem, I'm quite sure. His near side front wheel was beginning to show signs that the brake didn't want to come off there for a moment or two.
Cement dust being kicked up by all of them, but Chris Lord perhaps with the problem. He's all over the back of Gavin Cooper, though, as they come up now to that little chicane. Then over the top of the mountain, the cars will go light there. You can see Chris Lord's car airborne. Now, John Kent is right up behind Bobby Verden-Rowe and having to brake very, very hard there. A little bit too late as well, and Kent's car snaking ever so slightly. Fluxy is pulling away and on target for victory here at Cadwell Park. Over the line goes a delighted Ian Flux to win from Bobby Verden-Rowe and John Kent in 3rd. Then Gavin Cooper 4th, Chris Lord 5th, and Jason Yeomans completing the top 6. And that's great news, Neville, for Ian Flux in the championship.
Yes, he closes to within 11 points now of John Kent, with Martin Short 3rd, Gavin Cooper, Colin Blower and Jason Yeomans 6th.
The driver